All right, so I'm honored today to have Dr. Minkoff joining me to discuss specifically Perfect Aminos, but pick his brain a little bit just on some of his wealth of knowledge from the years that he spent practicing medicine, doing functional medicine. He has LifeWorks Wellness Center down in Florida. He's an alternative healthcare expert, guest lecturer, writer, TV and radio show guest. He also authors 2 weekly newsletters, the Body Health Fitness newsletter, Optimum Health Report. He graduated from the University of Wisconsin Medical School in 1974 and was elected to Phi Beta Kappa of medical schools, the prestigious Alpha Omega Alpha Honors Medical Fraternity for very high academic achievement. Also board certified in pediatrics and has completed a fellowship in infectious disease as well at the University of California in San Diego. So I know that your list of accolades are much, much larger than that, Dr. Minkoff, but certainly grateful to have you here today and excited to talk with you a little bit more specifically about Perfect Aminos. And so anything else that you'd like to add as far as your history and anything that you feel like I missed?
No, I've always loved education and loved learning. And, I did pediatrics, I did infectious disease, I did emergency medicine. In 1997, I got interested in nutritional biochemistry. And then we started a little practice while I was doing emergency medicine. And so we've had LifeWorks Wellness Center now this will be 26 years. And it's probably one of the largest integrative health clinics in the United States, probably the biggest integrative cancer clinic in the United States. So we have 100 employees. We have about 40,000 square feet of office space, and I love innovation and I love new technologies. And so I have just really been having the time of my life, because this field has evolved from, a couple guys back in 1997. The meetings were maybe 10 or 12 people. There was a few real smart guys. And now I was just at A4M, there's 8,000 people there. Really hundreds, if not thousands, of very smart people in the space with technology, labs, testing, genetics, metabolomics, all these things. And it's just a very exciting time to be alive and to be in health and to be able to learn and utilize all these tools. And I have a storage room of all the X tools that I bought that didn't work out. And this year I've been on a splurge with all new stuff. It makes my staff crazy. In fact,
My
I
staff
haven't,
knows that same feeling.
but it keeps me interested, and and some of this stuff actually works. And so, you know, with time, the level of severity of the average case or the average person in the United States is going down. The cases in 1998 and in 2000 were way easier. You could give them a Myers cocktail and maybe a major autohemotherapy, and you could, get them on a diet and give them a few supplements, and they would get better. And today, the level of illness across the board, the obesity and metabolic syndrome and post-COVID and parasites, and it's just like our country has become a sort of a sewer of sickness, of people who eat bad, have bad habits, and then they the actual sort of messaging um, from the powers that be is so pervasive and so strong about what is good and what you should do that almost everybody's confused and they just go with their gut, which is let's just have another beer and some more Cheetos
Yeah.
because it feels good and nobody else has got any better answers for me. And unless they run across someone like yourself or us, or they get to sort of the bottom and they've been dealing with traditional healthcare, which in some cases can really help them, but in many cases can't,
Mm,
we end up with them. And
right.
so it makes it very challenging, sometimes frustrating. And I think all this innovation has been a way to sort of help us deal with this stuff. And so I'm just amazed at at what we can do with people who are, way down the pipeline.
Yep.
And I just had a case which was just extraordinary. This person was a very long-standing diabetic, very poorly controlled. Her hemoglobin A1C was 11.
Man.
So, her blood sugars are running in the 200s pretty consistently,
Yep.
not higher.
Yep.
And she experienced a very serious burn of her feet, both feet. And as a diabetic, she had very poor blood circulation. And the feet started to go into gangrene. And she went in the hospital. She got antibiotics. She was seen by a vascular surgeon. She was seen by a podiatrist. And their solution was amputate both of her feet at the mid metatarsal level. Now, that's pretty serious.
Absolutely.
And we have been working with her now for a few weeks with IV ozone, DMSO, hyperbaric oxygen, cocoon baths, uh, exosomes, stem cells. And
Mm,
by golly, those feet are coming back.
that's amazing.
And it's amazing. Like it's amazing. Like the feet are they're actually starting to get pink. And there's a few little areas which are necrotic, and she might lose one or two toes, but she has very good functionality now. Like she can walk.
That's great.
So when I told the podiatrist, could he hang on for a month and give me a chance to see if we could do something? He was totally incredulous that anything could be done.
Yeah. Yep.
And he's a good guy and he knows what he's doing, but he just has no idea what you could do with the kind of medicine that we practice, with the tools that we have of restoring function and health in people who are way in bad shape. So
Absolutely. And I think for a lot of those practitioners, if they're truly in the conventional medical world, they don't have any clue about the things that, we're learning about on a regular basis, in regard to ozone, exosomes, the things that you mentioned that, I mean, there's a whole nother world out here that most people just really don't even have any clue is out there.
yeah.
Um, so you mentioned earlier, kind of your compilation of tools. Do you have a favorite tool that you've added to your arsenal in the most recent past?
Well, we have two big ones that we introduced this year, actually early last year, which is photobiomodulation. So photobiomodulation is many of these things that we use, whether it's vitamin B2, riboflavin, or whether it's curcumin or methylene blue. These compounds are photoactive.
Yep.
Like if you shine the right color light on them, you can turn them into a very active substance. And we're using it mostly for cancer, a little bit for Lyme.
Hmm.
And these lasers are now available for intravenous use. You can put the laser light into the bloodstream. So You give somebody an IV with curcumin, and while the curcumin is running in on one side of the Y connector, the other side of the Y connector has a laser in it that's got green light, which activates curcumin, or methylene blue with red light.
Hmm.
And boy, these things are very interesting at the effects that they have on cancer or on chronic infection or on just immune balance, T1, T2 balance to get that shifted so that you can get their immune system on the right track and not attacking the body. So that's one of them. The second thing I'm very excited about is we started doing whole body hyperthermia. Now, this
Okay.
had previously almost all been relegated to Germany or people in Europe. And I would have cancer patients that didn't respond to what we did. And I would send them over there. There was a very good clinic over there, and I knew the doctor, and they would do whole body hyperthermia, which is you get in an infrared sauna, your head is out, but it's a tube,
Yep.
and there's a probe in your bladder or in your rectum, which measures your body temperature. And then you heat these people up to 105 degrees. They
Okay.
have to be somewhat sedated because it's too hot to be tolerable. Like it's really hot, a fever of 105. If you
Yeah.
can get them up to the fever and keep them there for a couple hours, these tumors and these infections have actually low tolerance to heat.
Hmm.
So the body's natural response would be heat, but now when you heat it up from the outside, you produce this fever, and these people, everything else that you're using works even better. And so it's very interesting. It's very exciting. And it's a new modality that we're doing the last few months on mostly sick cancer patients or cancer patients with metastatic disease, or with people with long COVID or long Lyme or these sorts of things, which are these patients are very difficult. And that's one of the things that could be added. So I'm uh, I'm having a lot of fun with that.
That's incredible. It's fun to hear some of those different newer modalities. So might be something that I have to take a little bit of a closer look into and figure out what's going on with some of that, so I can at least steer some of our clients in that right direction. So,
Yeah.
um, love to pick your brain here a little bit on Perfect Amino specifically. I know that's one of your brainchilds. You kind of helped or you did create Perfect Aminos, right? So you even wrote a book on it, the search for the perfect protein. So um, it, rehash for me a little bit about why is it that you thought you needed to come up with Perfect Aminos to begin with?
Okay. So here's the thing that none of us learned in school, and that is that all proteins are not equal. Plant protein mix with peas or corn or pumpkin or pick your plant where that's the named protein source in what someone's eating. Compare that with dairy protein, casein and whey. Compare that with collagen. Compare that with meat. Compare that with eggs. It turns out that the value of the protein is in the particular amino acids that make up the protein. So proteins are complex structures. And I think the easiest way for most people to think about it is that if you look at playing Scrabble and you're dealt certain number of letters of tiles, and you have X's and L's and M's and Z's and no vowels or one vowel, the number of letters that you can make are very limited because words require vowels. And so it's the same with proteins. Proteins are like words. They're made up of smaller units. Those units are called amino acids.
Okay.
There's 22 of them in nature that our body uses. And they, there's 8 of them, 9 of them that are in virtually every protein, so that when you eat them, you have to be able to first digest. Let's say you have a piece of steak.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your stomach and your small intestine have to be able to take that chain of amino acids, which make up the steak protein. And if you would take one fiber of muscle and count how many amino acids are in there to make up that muscle fiber, it's about 5,000 amino acids. Okay, so you eat your steak, you chew it up, it goes into your stomach. There's an enzyme in the stomach which starts the process of protein digestion. It's called pepsin.
Yep.
It starts cleaving those amino acid chains, those long chains of amino acids, into shorter chains. It's the first step. So you got 5,000 of them in a row. Now you have to chop them up into single ones, because the bigger ones, the 3s and the 5s and the 10s, aren't absorbable. They're too big. Now, the first step in protein digestion is in the stomach, and it's this enzyme called pepsin. Pepsin doesn't work if your stomach pH is above about 4.5. Doesn't work. How many of
Interesting.
your patients are on some kind of an acid blocker? Half of them at least.
Yep.
How many of those patients aren't making enough stomach acid? Probably the other 40%. Because most people over about 30, 35 don't make enough stomach acid. If we used to, in the old days, we'd have people swallow a capsule and would measure the acid level in their stomach. And anybody above about 35 or 40 wasn't making enough acid. And so their initial step in digestion of proteins wasn't working. Now
Absolutely.
the protein goes to the small intestine, where you have enzymes from the pancreas, which are supposed to chop it up into the rest of the smaller pieces.
Okay.
In our clinic, we measure the levels of of chymotrypsin. It's a pancreatic enzyme. 60 to 70% of people have low levels of chymotrypsin. They're not digesting their food.
Is this primarily just because people are aging, inflammation? What do you think is causing
Well,
that?
it's a mixture. Their nutrition is bad.
Okay.
They're under proteined. They're under mineralized. Their gut wall is sick. You know, they're gluten sensitive, they're dairy sensitive, they're eating these foods, they have leaky gut, they have a hyperactive immune system in their gut, they've got thin walls, they've got parasites, they've got fungal overgrowth. They're on prescription medication, every one of which wrecks the gut biome and wrecks the wall of the intestine. Every pharmaceutical does that.
Okay.
And their gut doesn't work. And so now you're trying to, let's say you have the best South Dakota grass-fed meat protein, and a lot of people aren't going to get most of it. So that's one of the big challenges. And if you're going to get them better, you got to get those amino acids in their body.
Yep.
Virtually all vegetarians, it's not all, there's a few. The amounts of the essential amino acids, the ones that are really needed, those 9 that are really needed, they're very low in them.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to eat a lot of peas and corn and beans to even get there. But then those foods are high fiber. and they're hard to digest, and they don't get them. Now, this started with me. So I was a vegetarian and I was a triathlete. So
Okay.
I'm doing a lot of training. I'm training 14 to 16 hours a week. I'm doing Ironman triathlons. And I'm eating mostly vegetarian. And I injured my hamstring and I could not get it to heal. I tried everything possible: chiropractors, physical therapists, injectables, heat, cold, electrotherapy, you name it. I could not get it to heal.
Okay.
It remained vulnerable. I couldn't push it. And I did a test. I used to do some radio shows with a woman named Sherry Rogers. All the young people don't know her, but she's wrote about a dozen books. She's a brilliant practitioner. She was in South Florida. And she said, do an ion panel. It was a lab called Metametrics at the time. Genova now does the test.
Okay.
And the ion panel gives you levels of amino acids, vitamins, minerals, essential fats, and organic acids. It's a great test. We do it on every person that comes in our office.
Oh,
And
you
I
do?
did the panel on amino acids on myself. And I was horrifically deficient in essential amino acids. I thought, holy cow, maybe that's the reason that I can't get this muscle to heal. So I started experimenting with amino acids. And this formula that we have, Perfect Amino, is the result of that experimentation. And once I started taking it, at about 3 months, my hamstring felt good. And I gained 9 pounds of lean body mass without a measurement change in my body. Like my arms were the same diameter and my waist was the same. And I had gained 9 pounds of lean body mass. Where did it go? Bones. I was probably mildly osteopenic. Bones are made out of protein. They're made out of collagen.
Yeah.
My liver size, my lung size, my cardiac, my maximum heart rate increased by 12 points. I had massive physical changes. And I went to do an Ironman, a very tough Ironman. It's in Penticton, British Columbia. I'd done it before, and I had a personal best. And so it was like, holy cow, this is a miracle. I had no idea that this could be a factor. And so I wrote an article for Triathlete Magazine about my experience. And I had earlier started our company called Body Health because I was doing a lot of heavy metal detoxification. And I'd come up with this product called Metal Free. And we had a whole practitioner list that was using that product. And I wrote the article for Triathlete Magazine on my experience. And this is back in about 2002, probably 2003. I got this is before there was real email or real, internet social media.
Right.
And I got 3,000 letters to me through Triathlete Magazine. Where do I get this stuff? And then we said, well, we're going to make it. We can get it to you. And so now it's at Body Health, it's our biggest product. And it's, there's literally millions of people who use it in all categories. Athletes, if you're an athlete and you're not winning, I can guarantee you the guys that are beating you are on Perfect Amino because it heals stuff and it builds muscle and it builds enzymes and it builds hormones and it builds neurotransmitters because our food is messed up. And most of us, our digestion is messed up, and Perfect Amino is already digested. It's in the amino acid form. And
Okay.
so when you take it, you don't need stomach acid. You don't need pepsin. You don't need chymotrypsin. This stuff will be absorbed starting in the stomach, and in 23 minutes, it's in your bloodstream and it's going to your cells. And then your cells are making the proteins like they should because they couldn't get what they needed before, so they didn't have it.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And the getting those amino acids in obviously is huge, right? I mean, that's the building block of your muscle, and that your muscle is your key to longevity, right? And so if you're going to stay healthy for a long time, you're going to stay out of the nursing home, you got to be strong. You got to have good amounts of muscle. But I mean, there's a fair number of people who are taking things that you mentioned earlier, like pea proteins or branch chain amino acids, some of these kinds of things. Um, and frankly, I used to recommend them, but my clients would come back and I would ask them, well, what did you notice, from taking those products? And essentially what they would tell me is they like the flavor. And, and I said, well, that's great. I'm glad you do, but at the same time, I don't really care, right? Like I want to know just physiologically, what type of benefit are you really seeing from those products? And for the vast majority of the time, there was none seen, right? Other than the fact that sometimes the waist grew a little bit, or um, that person liked the flavor of it. So, uh, if somebody's taking a branched chain amino acid or some of these other protein powders, I mean, what makes perfect aminos so much different that people are seeing results with that versus the other?
Well, if you look at virtually every protein in the body, and there's about 400,000 different proteins in our bodies, from
Wow.
skin and hair and neurotransmitters and hormones and enzymes of all various sorts. There's a huge number of these things, and virtually all of them have these 9 essential amino acids in them. Now, when the amino acid enters the cell and the cell has a signal to, let's say, make collagen, which will end up being bone or some of the fibers in our skin. And so the signal goes to the factory in the cell. It's called a ribosome. So it gets the signal, make collagen. And it's got a program and it says, okay, I need the essential amino acid leucine. And then the next one in line is valine. And the next one in line is tryptophan. And these 9 make up about half of every protein.
Okay.
Now, if your diet is short in any of these essential amino acids, because let's say you have a vegetarian based diet and your proteins are coming from soybeans or peas or nuts, those foods are low in a couple of the essential amino acids. Methionine, leucine, they're low. They've got some, but they're very low. Now, if the particular cell that's making the collagen or making the neurotransmitter doesn't have the available amino acid when it's turn to go on the chain. So it says, okay, amino acid number 1, we got it. It goes on. Now, number 2, it goes on. This is like stringing beads. Okay, I need a red bead, got it. I need a blue bead, got it. I need a yellow bead, got it. I need a green bead. Hey, we're out of green beads right now. There's no green beads. What happens to that protein? Doesn't get made.
Hmm.
Wait for the next meal. Why did I gain 9 pounds of lean body mass? Because my body was massively deficient in essential amino acids and it just wasn't making them. So my body core structure, in me, it was bone, probably heart, probably lung. Like the program was there to be way better, but the nutrients that were needed weren't available in enough supply to keep up with the demand. And I'm doing a lot of training. I have high demand. I'm tearing my body apart every day, a couple hours every day. On weekends, the bike rides are 5, 6 hours, the runs are 3 hours. It tears up the body. And
Yeah.
in my particular case, what I was eating wasn't enough to keep up. So what we find is that probably 90% of people walking around are in that condition. And their
Wow.
health at some level suffers. It might be their immune health. It might be they can't grow hair. It might be that they're depressed. It might be that they have low energy. Their thyroid's low. Thyroid hormone is made out of an amino acid. Tyrosine is an amino acid. It's got 3 or 4 iodines on it. That's thyroid hormone. Well, if you're deficient in thyroid, I can't tell you how many people I've seen that are hypothyroid. I measure their level of T3 and T4 in their bloodstream, and they're low. And then I look at their blood iodine level, and it's low. And I look at their tyrosine level in their blood, and it's low. Well, they're hypothyroid because they're nutritionally deficient. And some of those people, you can give them amino acids and iodine, and they'll start making thyroid hormone. They don't need thyroid hormone. It's just a deficiency. And so this is what's wrong with people. And then why did it work in me? Because I started putting in lots of these amino acids. And then my cells were going like, okay, make more of this, fix this, do this. And then the body starts working. And so if you go to bodyhealth.com and you look on the website of the success stories, I mean, there are tens of thousands of success stories of people. My chronic plantar fasciitis went away. My cardiac arrhythmia went away. My brain fog went away. I can remember now. My chronic anxiety went away. My energy came back. So these people aren't sick. If they went to the doctor with that symptom, for sure, they would be on some medication, which was the farthest thing from solving the actual real problem. Like it's another drug that is going to cause them harm, which is just band-aiding the real problem. And so this has been very successful because it's got what the body needs. It's got the exact blend of amino acids. Now, you can measure when you're looking at foods, how well can the body use the amino acids in particular foods to see how good that protein is. Okay. So the plant proteins, because they're deficient in essential amino acids, a couple of the essential amino acids, you can do a study where you say, okay, I'm going to measure, I'm not going to give them any foods that have any protein. So you're going to feed them fruits and vegetables. The amount of protein in fruits and vegetables is pretty much negligible. If you then prescribe, okay, I'm going to take 25 grams of plant protein, and I'm going to give you 100 grams a day of plant protein as your only protein source. You can measure how many grams of nitrogen, because the difference between a fat and a carbohydrate and a protein is that a protein has nitrogen. So carbs and fats don't have nitrogen. Proteins have nitrogen.
Right.
So you can measure how many grams of nitrogen came in with that plant protein, that egg protein, that meat protein. The formulas are known for that. And if you measure and you control how much did they take in, you can measure, okay, I took in this many grams of nitrogen. And then you can collect their urine. About 90% of the nitrogen is eliminated from the body through the urine.
Okay.
And so you can measure how much of that nitrogen did they utilize, became part of their body in the form of a cell of collagen or an enzyme or a neurotransmitter. It got used. It became part of the structure. We're putting plaster in there, and the plaster is going in, and the plaster is sticking. And how many of those plasters didn't stick? Like the plasters didn't stick, and they got peed out. Okay, you with me?
Sense.
Okay, so we call it net nitrogen utilization.
Okay.
Now, if you take pea protein, what you will find is that 86% of the nitrogen, sorry, 84% of the nitrogen didn't stick. It went in and it got peed out.
That's not very much.
It's not very much. It's not a high quality protein
Okay.
because the body, it's not the right mix of amino acids for the body to utilize it. Because if it was the right mix, it would utilize it, would keep it.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if you look at dairy, about 16% of it is utilized. So if you're taking the best whey protein, ultra filtrate, grass-fed cows, whey protein, beautiful stuff, tastes delicious. Only 16% of it's going to be utilized. Same with
And not
soy.
very good.
Not very good. So you go up one more level. Okay, what's better? Well, meat and fish are better.
Okay.
About 33% of those are utilized. This is now all assuming that you're actually digesting it. That it's getting in.
Yeah, right.
Okay, which is dicey in most people. And then if you look at the best protein source for the human body is whole chicken egg, yolk
Okay.
plus white. 48% of it is utilized, like it stays in. If you look at perfect amino, it's 99% utilized.
It's not even close.
Not even close. And that's why it's so effective, because it goes in, it gets in because you don't have all these barriers of gut problems. Their cells can utilize it. Almost no nitrogen comes out because the body is just like, wow, this is what we need. Now, if you take the other plant mixtures, or you take like you mentioned, branched chain amino acids are only 3 amino acids. You're not making any protein with 3 amino acids. You need 9. All of that is going to go to nitrogen out. None of it is going to go to making muscle, bone, connective tissue, whatever you're doing.
So it's so what you're saying is the BCAAs and those kinds of things are pretty well worthless then.
They're worthless. You might as well eat a banana. What they've shown with branched chain amino acids is that if you eat them, the body will use them as calories and maybe will salvage some of the muscle it was going to break down to get calories, but it's not anabolic. It doesn't build tissue because it can't. It's missing too many things. Now, if you're eating a lot of stuff, you're going to get some value because there's amino acids and other things that people are eating.
Sure.
But if you look at it purely, if you just did, okay, we're going to do 100 grams of branched chain amino acids every day, how much, and fruits and vegetables, and then how much is going to come out, it would virtually all come out. Now, the other one that is very interesting is collagen.
Okay.
Collagen does not have tryptophan, which is one of the essential amino acids.
Okay.
And collagen, about half of the protein in collagen are amino acids that most tissues don't even need. So it's touted as this great source of protein in building the body, but it just isn't, because it doesn't have the, when you divide it up and see what is it actually made of and what does the body need as a whole, it's just missing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually looking at a Perfect Aminos can here, and just looking at the different amino acids in there. One other thing that was added to Perfect Aminos lately that I wanted to just hear real quick from you on, the nucleic acid building blocks, right? Were just added recently as a part of the
Yes.
Perfect Aminos. Why is that important?
Well, so I'm looking at this and saying, okay, we're providing the basic building blocks so the body can make protein. Where else could we provide basic building blocks where the body might not get it adequately from food? And one of those basic building blocks that the body also needs are these things called nucleic acids. Now, nucleic acids are the building blocks for DNA. That's our chromosomes. And RNA, those are the messenger molecules that our chromosomes send to the protein factory, to the ribosome, to give the message to make the protein. Now, those are very complex molecules. A nucleic acid has a sugar and it has a phosphorus and it has it's called a nucleotide. It's another nitrogen substance, which is very complicated. And the body all the time is needing to repair its own DNA. You go get an X-ray, you got some DNA that got hit. It got hit, or you eat some glyphosate, or you traumatize it. The DNA has to constantly be repaired. And if you're growing new cells, you got to make new DNA. So what you want to make sure of is you got plenty of that stuff too. Because having amino acids isn't enough. And so there is some literature on when you add these nucleic acids to a person's nutrition, you get improvement in a lot of things, in energy, in homocysteine metabolism, and a bunch of other things. And so we thought, if we're giving a basic building block that people need, why don't we add some of this other stuff in there too, which makes the product completely unique, So now you're getting a sort of a double whammy. You're getting both of them at the same time. And we're seeing effects from these things. We have a bunch of guys who are just, very high performance, whether they're MMA people or they're track athletes or they're triathletes. They just have, they can't believe the difference it makes in their fitness, in their recovery. I have a funny story if you want to hear it about a guy. This is before we added the nucleic acids, but he was an Ironman triathlete, and he was interested in the product, and so we said, well, why don't you try it out? So he had won the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii 2 times.
Wow.
And he wanted to win it a 3rd time. And so the race is always in October, and about in May, we got together with him, and we were getting him product, and he was training with it, and he was giving us feedback like something was different. And then he would always do, as his final prep for the race, he's over in Kona on the Big Island, and he would do a 150-mile bike ride for time 3 weeks before the race. That was his sort of fitness indicator.
Okay.
And there's mountains there, and it's hot there, and it's sort of ideal conditions to simulate what the race would be like. And he does the bike ride, he gets home, he calls me in a total panic. He said, I've done this many times, and what I just did was a half an hour faster than I've ever done it in my life.
No kidding.
And there's got to be some drugs in here, and I'm worried. Well, there weren't any drugs in there. And he went on that year. I went over there to watch him race. Went over there and won the race. And that's what's happening. The sort of barriers of human performance, some of it's coaching, some of it's genetics, what's the gift that the athlete has. Some of it's his own drive and intention. But there's this huge factor of nutrition, supplementation, or sleep that is also key in this formula. And so you get somebody who's already got a racehorse of a body, of a machine, and a metabolism. And then you start putting in these things, boy, they just don't, they get better.
That's incredible.
And that's true for the sick person too. Because 100% of anyone with a chronic disease is deficient in amino acids. 100%.
100%.
Any Parkinson's, any cancer patient, any long COVID patient, any diabetic, any autoimmune patient, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, 100% of them are amino acid deficient. You measure them and you load them up for 3 to 6 months and they will improve. It's not the only thing. Of course, there's a lot of other stuff that we do,
Right.
But this is the most basic thing that the body needs is amino acids.
So let's touch on that for a second. So is there anybody that this isn't good for? Like any,
Not
are there
not anybody that
contraindications to
I've
perfect
ever
aminos?
no, not anybody I've ever seen. And children, especially children. You know, the kid gets up and he has a donut for breakfast with a glass of milk
Yeah.
or a glass of orange juice. And then for lunch, he's got macaroni and cheese. I mean, and when I was a little kid, I didn't eat hardly any meat. You know, I didn't like it.
Yep.
They're deficient. You know, and we've got all these problems with children now, you know, all this autism, this ADD. These kids are massively deficient in amino acids. And this stuff isn't tastes good enough now that you can coax them to drink it. It's Christmas week, so my grandchildren are all in town and they suck the stuff down every day.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
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 So
My oldest daughter is uh finally found a version where she'll drink the chocolate aminos now. So I'm excited about that. So um
chocolate's pretty darn good.
it's not bad. It's not bad
Yeah.
at all. So you're saying really anybody with chronic disease, this is right for cancer, you would include in that as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. These cancer patients are all immune suppressed. You know, they have low blood protein. They're all exhausted and they need, and a lot of them are anemic.
Yep.
And you measure their iron, it's okay. And you measure their B12 and their folic acid, and they're okay. What are they missing? They're missing amino acids. Hemoglobin is a protein. It's like the second or third most prevalent protein in the body. You're not going to make any red blood cells unless you can make hemoglobin.
Mm,
So we load them up with perfect amino.
yeah. So let's talk about that, load them up real quick. So dosing wise, so from my understanding and the research and the things that I've looked at, that there's you can't really overdo perfect aminos. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, but you can under,
If you are on dialysis
okay.
with chronic renal failure, or you have chronic liver failure, you're about ready to get a liver transplant,
Okay.
I want your doctor to be involved so that he can measure the level of, it's called BUN, blood urea nitrogen, so that you don't get nitrogen toxic. Now,
Okay.
it's just a precaution. There's been some trials of people on dialysis who use perfect amino as their protein, and their need for dialysis goes down. They make less blood
Really?
nitrogen. Yes, because they're utilizing it.
Okay.
So, other than that, we have no known interactions with any prescription medication. So, that's not a thing. And almost nobody gets like an allergic reaction to it. There's a few people, but it's very, very rare. So, for the vast majority of people, they can take it. And it says on the canister 5 tablets, or if you're doing the powders, 1 scoop. It's not really enough. Do 2 scoops or 10 tablets. Take it all together. Now,
Okay.
if you're sick, if you're trying to train, you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to improve, I take 2 scoops twice a day. And on my long days, I take 2 scoops 3 times a day. I want plenty in. And
Is it helpful to load up in a shorter period of time, like take more for a month and then kind of back off, or does
I
that
get someone like osteoporosis. Okay, you need to make collagen, and you take perfect amino, you'll make collagen. So you go on the VibraPlate and you make sure you're on your vitamin D, and we get your hormones in balance, and you make sure you get enough minerals. But you take 10 grams, 2 scoops or 10 tablets. You take it 2 or 3 times a day for the next 3 months. Yes, let's get this thing rolling.
Hmm.
And then once you're adequate, you don't have to take as much.
Okay. So yeah, so loading does seem to make a difference then as far as getting those amino acid levels up, and then you can kind of plateau on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of additive then, because if you're working with someone like you or like us, we're getting their gut working. Now
Yep.
they're going to digest and absorb the proteins that they're eating. and they'd be conscious about getting enough protein from food sources, and then they don't need to take as much perfect amino. And then you can measure their levels of essential amino acids in their blood, and you can say, hey, we're in good range now. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, actually the reason that I found Perfect Aminos originally was actually I give credit to my dad because he had seen a video, I think with you and Dr. Schellenberger on social media. I think you guys did an interview together and a presentation on what Perfect Aminos was, and he said, "Hey, you know what? I got to look at this stuff." And I said, "Hey, you know, it makes sense." I said, "You try it, you let me know how it goes, and then, you know, maybe that's something I'll look at for my practice." And this, I think, was now probably, I don't know, 3 years ago, and probably three. And he came back. You know, he'd been struggling with a lot of just kind of tendonitis, struggling with some inflammation around his knees. He came back to me, I think it was, I don't know, a month and a half after starting his Perfect Aminos, and he said, you know, we'd tried all kinds of things where we had, you know, done prolozone injections and even tried PRP and some of this kind of stuff. And he just wasn't really seeing a benefit. And after about a month of the Perfect Aminos, he said, you know, that irritation, that inflammation in my knees, it's gone. And frankly, that's been a recurrent theme of people that I've recommended aminos to, is they just come back and they say, hey, you know what? That works. And so it's been really, really fun to see. You know, there are some people that randomly once in a while run into some people that seem to have some sensitivity to stevia. So the powder doesn't seem to be a great fit for them. So they end up switching over to the pills. But other than that, I see very little interaction with it.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. And the stevia, there's been an upgrade on that. There's a lot of junk stevia on the market, and the stevia that's in this new product is the highest quality. And there's another thing in there called Katempe fruit. This is an African fruit which takes the bitterness out of the stevia, and I think our tastes are pretty good. Amino acids, if you try chewing one of the tablets, this is about one of the hardest things in the world to disguise that bitter taste of amino acids.
Mm.
I challenge anyone out there. You take an amino acid tablet and chew it up, man, it is nasty. And then to try to get decent stuff in terms of flavors without all kinds of crap in there so that you can disguise the taste, it is a trick. So we're doing pretty well. We're always working on it, but I think now uh they're actually pretty darn good. And so, and if they don't like it, they can take the tablets. We sell more tablets than we do powder, so
That's
uh
interesting.
people people prefer the tablets.
Yeah. So when Dr. Minkoff is out training and or doing a race, how many servings of aminos do you take?
Well, I put it in my water bottle. I have 2 scoops when I first get up every morning,
Okay.
and then I put a scoop in the water bottle with a scoop of our electrolytes, which have some perfect amino in.
Yep.
And we have a new product which is called cardiovascular, and I put a scoop of that in there, and that stuff is like energy lightning.
Hmm.
It's a chocolate flavor. It has the mitochondrial enhancers in it. And it's if those you guys out there that want energy, put a scoop of that in your coffee every morning. It is
Okay.
really it really tastes good, and it is a great product. We're
Hmm.
actually having trouble keeping it in the stock. We weren't sure if you never know when you launch a new product if it's going to
All
go
right.
or not. But this one has been a winner, and I had 2 canisters here when my kids. I have 9 grandchildren, and they're all here, and so they're all addicted to this stuff, and they've gone through 2 canisters now in 7 days. Um, One of them's a college runner. They just like they use it. They like it.
Hmm.
So yeah. So I'm not. I dose it. I take a lot. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Any other last thoughts or any last stories that you have as far as what you've seen with Perfect Aminos over the years here?
Well, I think that I just keep getting amazed that um, bodies need certain things. Biology is very sort of set in its ways. You have a living cell that has requirements. And if you supply those requirements, you get health. And every patient that you're seeing and that I'm seeing has violated those rules, those biology rules. If you put poisons in a cell, it's not going to function as well. If you get too many poisons in it, it's going to die or get cancer or do something weird. If you put foreign chemicals in the body's going to go downhill. But if you then say to someone, okay, let's put in the good stuff and let's have you avoid the bad stuff. So we're going to put you on a new program. And today's December 31st. And I challenge everyone out there for the next 60 days. Don't put anything in your mouth that isn't an organic, real product that doesn't come in a box or a package, and just eat that. And then supplement with things that people need. They need vitamin D, they need amino acids, they need essential fats. So you put them on a good multivitamin. We have a great multivitamin. You put them on some Perfect Amino. You give them some digestive enzymes. And in 2 months, you will not recognize and make sure that you're getting enough sleep. You set a hard time for bedtime. You can make an exception tonight. You're supposed to stay up all night and feel terrible tomorrow. So if you want to do that, go ahead.
That's what everybody's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't.
Happy New Year. Start out the New Year's feeling like garbage.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you can avoid that, I'd avoid that. Keep your bedtime. Keep your wake up time. Get up and do some exercise. Get outside. Get some sunshine. You do that 2 months, like 2 months, you won't recognize yourself and you won't believe how good you feel. And if you go the other way, which is the doctor knows best, and I'm going to just do what I do, I'm going to have my coffee and glazed donut for breakfast. And, I'm going to have my turkey sandwich on white bread full of glyphosate for lunch. And, just a normal standard American diet. And then you can't sleep or you're anxious and the doctor gives you a pill, and you got high blood pressure and the doctor gives you a pill, and you got chest pain and the doctor gives you a pill, or he cuts you open and fixes you. That is a way to go. And right now, the United States spends 4 times the amount on healthcare of, we are 5% of the world's population, the United States.
Hmm.
We spend 4 times more than everybody combined on healthcare. And we are the lowest ranking Western country in longevity and health in the world.
That's awful.
And if that's how you want to be, where at 52 you have your first heart attack, and by 65 you're in a nursing home. You worked your whole life, you saved up, you got your pension, you're going to retire, you can finally do the things that you want, but you're on 7 pharmaceutical drugs and you don't have any energy and you don't feel good. Like, what for? Because it's
Yeah.
every person is under their control.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
if they decide that they don't want that, then you can't do what the guys who tell you to do are doing. You got to do what we're telling you to do, because that is that is what's going on. And I think there's a revolution going on right now, like the revolution
It's
since this
waking
last
up.
election. It's waking
Make
up.
America healthy again.
That's right. And these guys who are very involved in it, who see it, they think within 5 years the whole thing can be transformed. No drug ads on TV, no school lunch programs that got any artificial foods, you know, uh, make organic sexy, you
Hmm.
know, and and stop pushing, start pushing pharmaceuticals and chemicals. Sometimes they're needed. I'm with it. I'm not anti anything.
Yep.
Sometimes they're needed, but for most people they're not, and there's a better way to do it. And if we go that way, we'll see a transformation.
No, I agree 100%. I look forward to these next few years and seeing how health is able to be transformed in this nation. We have a long ways to go, but it's not doable. And we just need to change the education to people a little bit, because I think a lot of people just frankly don't know, or perhaps they're trying to be an ostrich and put their head in the sand. But the outcomes here unfortunately are despicable, and I think that if we can encourage people to focus on health as opposed to disease, that we can help a lot of people heal and to feel better and prevent a lot of chronic sickness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1/4, the US budget is $4 trillion. That's how much taxable comes in. 1.3 trillion is Medicare, Medicaid.
Wow.
And it's all chronic illness. It's
Yep.
all chronic illness. 100 years ago, there wasn't any of this stuff. It wasn't needed.
Right.
So this is where the money's going.
And it's
And this
literally
is,
going to bankrupt us.
well, it is. I mean, we're spending $1 trillion more every 2 months than what we're taking in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can't go on. And, it's way easier if we can convince everybody to just get their habits in order and do good stuff. Well, you won't have to go to the doctor. We won't be spending all that money on it because it won't be needed. It's interesting. I just learned this. Until about 1980, the idea that you would take a pill every day for any condition was the most foreign thing that there ever was. Just did not exist.
Wow. That was only 40 years ago.
40, maybe 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And the birth control pill came out. And they convinced someone that you could take the birth control every day and that they would take a pill every day. And then it just sort of started from there. And
Mhm.
now, when I was in the emergency room, or even now I see it, the average patient coming in is on 12 prescription medicines. And the cost of it is high. Okay, Medicare is paying for it, but still, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. Some of these drugs are even way more than that.
Yep.
It's someone on Eliquis or something like that. These things they're very expensive.
Absolutely.
Okay, Medicare pays for it. In the patient's mind, it's like, well, Medicare's paying for it. I don't care. No, no, that's not the right thinking.
Everybody's paying for it at that point, right?
Everybody's paying. We're all paying for it.
Yep.
So it's but the guy who gets it is paying for it the most, because it's just a symptom of how he lived his life and what he did. And I'm not making anybody wrong. I'm just saying that almost everybody can make a fresh start and do better. And then their need for that stuff will be less, which means that their health is getting better and their vitality is better and their outlook on life is better. And their enjoyment of their retirement would be better.
Yeah.
Because they're free. They can move, they can play tennis, or they can walk up do a hike or something like that.
Yeah. And how many people retire and their health dramatically declines almost immediately, and then they lose out on those years to enjoy their labor as well. Yeah, I see it all
Yeah.
the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Minkoff. It's been a huge pleasure and an honor to have you here, and thank you for bestowing your knowledge with us here today. Wish you a very happy new year, a blessed 2025, and I look forward to hopefully being able to see you around at some conferences here again in the near future. So thank you so much again for being here.
You're welcome. Very nice. Enjoyed it a lot.
All right, appreciate it. Have a blessed day. Enjoy your time with your family. Thank you for making
Thanks.
time for us. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.